right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. You're welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive? You could be larger than life.
Hello, welcome to the Answers Yes podcast. This is our Live Life Driven version, and I got a friend on the line, Brad Roth from the Mike's Inner Circle. How's it going, Brad?
Going great. How about you?
Not too bad. Now, I know Mike's Inner Circle isn't the main place that we're connected. We're connected through the Arete syndicate, which I think is an awesome group.
It is. Yeah. I don't know when you got in. I got in about a little over a year, like last summer.
Yeah, I think it was last summer for me too. Now, I think Andy Frisella is top notch when it comes to business. And I was first introduced to Andy's First Form products about 5 or 6 years ago. I was racing off-road cars in Mexico, and a female racer was an athlete. Her name was Amy, and she's out of Canada. She's like, oh, you got to try these supplements. They're so great. So I jumped on the supplement program. I got the code and everything, and I started following Andy in First Form, and then slowly started learning more about him as a person and as a businessman. I thought, wow, this guy's pretty incredible, and I loved his podcast show. And, now I'm a daily listener. If he's got a daily show out, I'm listening to it. So how about yourself?
Yeah, it's funny because I found it through the podcast, but I can't remember where I found Andy's podcast, like when I first heard it or what led me to it.
Yeah.
All I remember is that all of a sudden I was a listener. And it was the MFCEO project, of course, back then. Now it's Real AF. Yep. And I was like very new to entrepreneurship when I discovered it. And I was in that phase of like any really new person. I was looking everywhere for answers. Who do I listen to? I kind of fell prey to a lot of those people who are like hype and, the Ty Lopez's of the world, those kind of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like, what's real? Like who's going to actually like give it to me straight? Cause when you're new and you're kind of naive and you haven't been in that world. Cause like for me, I dove headfirst into entrepreneurship without any sort of experience or mentorship or plan or whatever, like about as much as you could have just like dove off the cliff. That's what I did. And so I was just searching and, hit a lot of bumps along the way, of course, but then I came across Andy's podcast and I was like, man, this guy's different than anything I've heard from all these other people and gurus and what have you. Yeah. So obviously he's got a unique style that really resonated with me.
Yeah. Yeah, for
and
sure.
you as well. Yeah. And then I discovered Ed through him. And it's funny, Arete, when it first started, it was just the really high level group, right? Where it's like, 60 to 100K a year and you had to be doing $1 million and that sort of thing. So I put on my 5-year vision board. I was like, okay, in 5 years or maybe it was 3 years, I'm going to be there. I'm going to join. And then they opened it up and they're like, it's $400 a month. And I was like, that's a lot for me right now, but I feel like I got to do it. Yeah. And I did. And it's completely changed everything, really. The people, like the connections and who I spend my time with and how I think of myself as a person and all kinds of different, I could go on, but that's kind of my story.
It's awesome. It's real value. What business did you jump all in when you were looking for somebody like Andy?
So the very first, I was working at a gym. I was in the fitness industry. That's what I went to college for. And then that's what I did for about 5 years post-college. And during that time, it was part-time. I was looking for other opportunities. What do? I was like, I hate being a regular 9 to 5. Like I can't do that. Like, it's just not me. So I tried real estate. I was a realtor for a couple of years. I tried network marketing, like these things that were kind of like entrepreneurial, like you're kind of on your own, but not creating something of your own. And so I got some experience there, and those things kind of led me to personal development and learning about sales and marketing. And one thing just kind of led to another into entrepreneurship. And then I liked building up Instagram accounts, like just for fun. That's something I was doing several years ago. It was a little bit easier back then. Yeah. And then I came across Ty Lopez's social media marketing course. go through this course. You'll go sign up a bunch of local businesses and run their social media, and they'll pay you a bunch of money and all this stuff. So I'm cool. I get real excited. I go do the course, get my LLC going. Oh, I know all these people at the gym and they're all going to hire me and it's going to be great. And it didn't quite work out that way.
Yeah.
I had some like really kind of minor success that here and there, but one of those things that from the outside, everyone's like, oh yeah, it's so great. Start your own business. It's easy and you'll make so much money. And obviously, it doesn't usually work out that way or that easily. So, that was my foray. I kind of jumped from working at the gym, and then we moved. My now fiance is a nurse and she tried the travel nursing thing. So I was like, I got to do something that's, mobile. And I was like doing this marketing, but then I didn't also think through that, like, okay, local businesses, like I need time to develop those relationships and stuff. So I tried that. Like it wasn't really remote like I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And so just a lot of learning experiences, but that was kind of my first experience jumping out on my own.
So you're on your own now.
Mm-hmm.
You're a Andy follower. You're an Arete. How are you leveraging that, and what does your business look like now?
Yeah, so I did do the marketing for, I think it was from like 2018 until early this 2021. So for about 3 years, but I kind of pivoted a couple of times from social media to more Facebook ads and then chat bots, which was cool. I learned a lot. It just never really kind of like clicked for me. And during that time, back in 2018, I went to a Tony Robbins event and I had been getting into personal development pretty heavy, but that kind of like took it to a whole nother level. And I just had this fascination with psychology and human behavior and coaching and that sort of thing. So I'd kind of known in my gut for a while that where I wanted to be was more in the coaching and personal development space. I didn't know exactly how or what capacity, but my mind was, okay, I need to see this marketing business through and either sell it or, get to a point where I feel good about it. And then I can go do what I want with the coaching. And so I was kind of like putting it off. And I had this concept of not most people that I came up with a few years ago. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I just kind of sat on it. And then I'm listening to Andy's podcast. I hear about Arete. I jump into Arete last year. And I originally thought that podcasting was just something that like the Andys of the world did. These people with mega followings and influencers and stuff. And so it never even crossed my mind that it was something I could maybe do.
Yeah.
I was also very stage fright my whole life, like speaking and recording myself. Like that was terrifying to me. And so it wasn't on my radar. But then I got into Arete and I saw all these people had podcasts, all these people who weren't like, multi-millionaires with huge businesses. Like, oh, okay, like a quote unquote regular person could start a podcast. And so I got invited onto a couple as a guest. First one didn't go great. I was nervous, and that sort of thing was short over Zoom, of course. I was like, I don't know about this. And then the next one I got invited onto went really well, hit flow and got off. And that was actually about a year ago in November. Mm-hmm. And I got off that episode and I said, okay, that was awesome. Like not most people is going to be a podcast. And so the game plan was I'm going to continue with my marketing business, which I think there was a lot of potential with what I was doing, but I didn't really enjoy it. Like it was just like an energy suck. And I said, I'm going to do the podcast a couple hours a week on the side. And of course, you being in podcasting, it doesn't quite work that easily.
Not that easy.
So I jump in and I'm like, okay, how do I start this podcast? And I launched it back in March. And I think I'm kind of a believer at this point. I know it sounds cheesy, but that kind of everything or most things happen for a reason. And so all this marketing that I was doing, even though it never took off for kind of doing it for other businesses, it really translated well for me into my podcast. So I was able to get off to a good start. I had good branding and a really defined niche and that sort of thing, which helped in the beginning. And so I got off to the strong start. I was getting all this positive feedback. And then people started coming out of the woodwork. Oh, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? How do I start a podcast? Asking me these questions. And I love to coach and teach and share what I know. And so I said, why don't I maybe I'll put some things together into like a mini course and to help people get started. And so I did that. And a few months into the podcast, I said, I found myself spending more and more time and energy on the podcast and less on this marketing business that I was just too stubborn to kind of quit.
Yeah.
Because I think I had this mindset of, oh, if I quit, like I'm a failure, everyone's going to see me as a failure, even though every entrepreneur has, a long list of failures in most cases. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I decided, you know what, I'm going to listen to my gut for once, not my brain or my logical thinking mind all the time. And I'm going to make the jump and make the switch into the podcasting and coaching world. And so, that was probably about 6 months ago. And so that's where I'm at now. And it's like, I'm not making a fortune yet, but I feel like I'm really on the right path compared to what I felt before. Like I feel aligned. It's in a lot of ways, I think what I'm meant to do, like not just the podcasting, like that's a focus now, but relationship coaching is something that I'm kind of developing and working on the side as well. Cause that's an area I'm passionate about.
Sure.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
What's the name of your show, just for people that are listening?
It's called Not Most People.
That's what I thought it was, and you kind of casually said it. So Not Most People is the name of your podcast. And then do you have a website and everything for your coaching?
For the coach, for like the podcast?
Yeah.
So the relationship coaching is kind of, I'm not really promoting that heavily right now. It's kind of like not on the back burner, but working on that on the side. Right now, my main focus is I have the podcast course.
Yeah.
And then what it just came out with, which I'm really excited about, is like a small group coaching to help people launch. So anyone who's bought an online course knows that the majority of courses get bought and they get sat on and you never get to it. And so I said, what can I create that people sign up and they're going to have a badass podcast in 6 months or 6 weeks or less? And so I kind of designed this program. It's a little bit more exclusive, smaller, and that sort of thing. But that's actually kicking off this week, the first round of it. So I'm pretty excited about that. But you can find the info through notmostpeople.net with all that stuff.
Awesome. You know what's funny, and I talk about this often with people. There's businesses all around. There's no reason for anybody not to have any money, not to have a job, not to be successful. There's literally businesses all around. The same thing happened to me when I started my podcast. I don't know, maybe 6-10 shows in, people started going, well, how do you do that? Like, what equipment do you use? Like, how do you upload it? How do you start up? I had a dozen people ask me, and I'm showing them and helping them and like sending them the catalog. This is where you buy your equipment. This is what I use, but you don't have to buy this stuff. You can buy. And I always thought, gosh, there's probably a business in there. And here you are doing it, We see things and opportunities every single day. It's what you make out of it, right? Mm-hmm. People have needs. If you can fill those needs, you've got a business,
Yeah. It's like turning on like a need radar. Like once you become attuned to hearing, you're like, think about like, what do you complain about on a regular basis? Mm-hmm. What do you wish was better? Mm-hmm. What do you hear people complain about? Anytime you hear a complaint, that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it wasn't a complaint, but it was a need. Like people were, I need this, I need help with this and that. And like, like you said, you get asked all the time. And so why not kind of make this into something that's helps people, but is also kind of scalable at the same time?
Yeah. Well, and podcasting certainly is an emerging form of media. It's exciting. There's a huge variety. I know there's thousands and thousands of podcasts now, but there's little niches within each one. You find something you like, then all of a sudden you can go down that rabbit hole and there's a dozen shows that you like, and so I love that you saw that need within there, because I was getting those calls too. I didn't do anything about it. I chose not to do anything about it. You took the opportunity to create a business with it, and that was really, really smart. I love that you transition from some of these courses into like, okay, Andy's kind of a no bullshit guy. Like he's going to call it like you see it. Super funny story. I've got 18 men on a text chain that we talk regularly. Mainly it's politics and, complaining about stuff, or, hey, let's get together and have a shot of whiskey, whatever. But they're all ages, anywhere from probably mid-20s to late 60s. Okay. And Andy had an awesome show 2 weeks ago that I hadn't heard yet. It was really about, what does the American flag mean? What does it mean to get involved, and really like respect the time that's been put into this country.